Gen X, male or female, you're entering what are potentially the most valuable 15 to 30 years of your entire life. Years where you can still experience the travel you've always dreamed of, hike mind-blowing mountains, trek breathtaking landscapes, eat jaw-dropping food at unique, exotic destinations, and push your body to do and experience absolutely extraordinary things that make you feel completely alive. You've got the money for it. You can make the time for it. But your body, that's becoming a different story. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why Gen X is fighting an uphill battle in their own brain when it comes to transforming your body for a lifetime of adventure. If you're Gen X or on the border, as a young boomer or older millennial, I guarantee that you're facing at least one, if not all three of these problems. One, there's a part of your brain that still thinks you still have infinite time left, that you're immortal. And so it's easy for everything else in your life to become a higher priority. Ultimately, there's no urgency to take action and fix your body. Number two, there's a different part of your brain that once you decide to actually take action way after you said you were going to, well, it's literally going to give you the wrong advice on how to go about transforming your body for a life of adventure. Three, there's a final part of your brain that's going to completely sabotage you by week 3. Everyone on the planet has experienced the dreaded 3-week quit cycle of starting and then quitting in multiple areas of their life. So these 3 brain issues at this very moment are stealing your capable years of mind-blowing adventure right out from under you. Because think about it, there's a massive difference between being alive at 75 and still being capable of adventure at 75. How far are you away from that? It's scary, right? Now, let me show you why Gen X has these 3 brain problems and why they're worse than any other generation. Because what happened to Generation X, men and women, despite being the kids who grew up during the fitness boom, ended up programming our brains in ways that are actively sabotaging you and me today. In fact, let's start with the fitness boom. And ladies first. For Gen X, the late 80s and early 90s were characterized by the supermodel era. Early on, Cindy Crawford and Christy Brinkley, they actually looked healthy. They were somewhat athletic. And then the ridiculousness of emaciated runway models like Kate Moss took over the glossy pages of Vogue, Elle, and Cosmo right as Gen X females entered their peak physical years. Aerobic workouts filled the VCRs of teenage girls and young adult women, and the no-fat diet craze took off. What a mess. And this is just the beginning. So before I share what the 80s and 90s did to Gen X guys, welcome to my channel. I'm JT Nelms, and I take empty nesters, execs, and entrepreneurs on a life-changing journey to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa or to experience Machu Picchu in Peru. And if you're thinking, wow, but is that still possible for me? You're exactly who I help transform. Because here's the truth. Successful people, they spend 20 plus years being everything for everyone else and then wake up one day not recognizing who they've become. They still secretly dream, but they've stopped believing. So I guide them from someone who thinks the mountain is impossible into someone who summits. Together we transform for adventure instead of always trying to lose 10 pounds or look better or feel better. Sound familiar? Some go on, they join me on my amazing trips. Others train for their own big adventure. Either way, the transformation completely changes their life. At least monthly, I run a live workshop where I share all my systems behind truth, transformation, and adventure travel so you can transform your body from the inside out for thriving longevity and a few more decades of adventure. Come join me while that workshop is still free and subscribe. Click the link in the description below. All right, cool? Cool. Now, let's get back to Gen X and why the guys got equally screwed. In the 80s and 90s, Gen X males grew up on Muscle and Fitness magazine. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, I almost said Sly there, and some of the best marketing that has ever existed. Bodybuilding magazines were found at every grocery store, and the VCR and Blockbuster made access to muscular action heroes as simple as a weekly rental. But of course, that is only the beginning for all of Gen X because the next thing you know, computers with access to the freaking internet show up and start to dominate our lives. We went from moving around every day with occasional travel as you worked and made a living to sitting behind a desk, leaning forward into a keyboard and staring at a monitor for hours. At first, we worked a 40-hour week. That became a 50 and then a 60-hour week as constant connectivity and the availability of email kept us at our desks, which we solved by adding a computer and desk in our own homes to keep going so we could work harder for even longer. And if that wasn't enough, now we have smartphones that are 1,000 times more powerful than the Cray 2 supercomputer from 1985, a machine that cost $30 million, weighed 5,500 pounds, took 16 square feet of floor space, and required liquid cooling to handle its 195,000 watts of power. Today, 1,000 times more power is in your pocket, which makes it possible for a screen and both the wisdom and foolishness of the entire world to be within arm's reach for 100% of your existence. All of this turned Gen X bodies into a metabolic train wreck. Here's how. Ladies, at the absolute best time for you to put on muscle that could create a calorie burning metabolic foundation that would give you an advantage for the next 5 decades, you were taught instead to get as small as possible. High sugar, low fat diet screwed up both your hormone production and your body's ability to effectively use insulin. Endless cardio further destroyed any amount of muscle that you may have carried until finally your brain and body made you stop. And when you finally did, it only makes sense that fat started showing up on your body anywhere and everywhere. With next to zero fat burning muscle foundation to help burn calories and properly use all the sugar from your low fat diet, gaining fat was the obvious outcome. Now, real fast, super important to be crystal clear. There's no judgment here. I'm simply laying out exactly what happened and why so much of what Gen X is facing physically and psychologically is a literal byproduct of how our world completely changed during the most pivotal physical years of our lives. I'm 100% in the middle of this Gen X window, and let's be clear, I've made many of these same mistakes. Which brings me to Gen X guys, because we are facing completely different issues than the ladies. We typically fall into one of two categories, those who lifted weights and those who didn't. Either way, both are facing big issues right now. If you didn't lift, you've likely been sedentary for decades. To say this simply and directly, if you're in this category, it's likely you're overweight or obese and pre-diabetic or diabetic. Sitting at a desk behind a computer all day has also led to posture issues that affect your neck and low back, which makes your gut hang out even more. Now, guys who lifted during the 80s and 90s do have a few advantages. If that's you, you put on a bit of a muscular foundation that naturally burns a few more calories every day, but now 20 to 30 years later, as we're thinking about solving the problems that are cropping up in our sedentary lifestyle now, we're also facing a pretty big problem. I'll cover that when I talk about the second brain in just a minute, because in order to understand it first, we have to understand how all three brains are about to completely screw up everyone in Gen X even more. Ready? Here we go. I call the first brain the adventurer. This is the part of the brain that wants to do all the things and have all the experiences and visit all the places you've ever dreamed of. And while this is part of the brain that is obviously super important for creating a motivating mission, there's a big problem with it. You see, it keeps telling Gen X, men and women, that you're basically immortal, that everything is always going to work out perfectly just as soon as you solve that one problem first. Even right now, your adventure brain is messing with you as you watch this video. Your Gen X adventure brain hears, well, I've got 15 to 30 years left, and it makes two huge, terrible mistakes. First, it remembers Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Cindy Crawford, and Christy Brinkley, and then it looks at them today because all of them look incredible and thinks, see, no problem, it'll be easy. Except it doesn't think about the fact that these four people are drug surgery and genetically enhanced specimens with millions of dollars for nutritionists, personal chefs, doctors, and in addition, they have trained consistently for decades because their entire life depended on their appearance and on them making health and fitness their top priority. Guess what? We didn't do that. So it's not going to be easy. Now, here's the second horrible mistake the adventure brain makes. It thinks back to 30 years ago, which puts you in your prime physical years. And it says, sweet, no problem. I'll just back to where I was 30 years ago. Everything's going to be fine. Hold up, adventure brain. No, it's not. Right now, think about how you felt and performed 30 years ago. You were in your freaking prime. You could do anything with your body. Now, fast forward to where you are today and take a really hard, really honest look at the massive difference between your body today and your body 30 years ago. And sorry to be blunt, but it's a bigger difference than you realize or can even imagine. And to make things worse, your hormones are freaking messed up. So are mine. And the hormones that you had back then do not exist at the levels that they do today. So let's be clear and state the truth. You're not going to get back to where you were 30 years ago. I'm not going to get back to where I was 30 years ago. And even getting back to where we were 15 years ago is going to take a complete lifestyle change. That won't be fast, it won't be cheap, it won't be easy. So, to the Gen X adventurer brain sitting in the person watching this right now, I'm talking to you. Keep coming up with insanely awesome adventure ideas that motivate this Gen Xer to take action. I love you for that. But stop with the nonsense that transforming his or her body is going to be fast, cheap, and easy, that they're going to live forever, and that as soon as they get that one thing done, that they'll get started. Look, you've got to start now if you want the chance to enjoy thriving longevity and the adventurous life that you're dreaming of and that you've been working so hard for. Okay, now it's time to talk about brain number two because this is where it gets even worse. I call brain number two the planner. This is the part that here's the cool stuff the adventure brain comes up with and then gets to work. It makes checklists and spreadsheets and to-do lists and shopping lists and lays out your plan of action for achieving awesomeness. Sounds great, right? Not so fast. Here's the absolutely awful thing about the Gen X planner brain. And this is the critical mistake that I see in Gen X men and women who actually start to take action. So good job. And it has everything to do with our most formative years in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Okay, remember earlier, what were Gen X women taught is the best way to drop body fat, right? They were taught to drop all the fat in their diet and do a ton of high intensity cardio. And I'm telling you with zero hesitation that the planner part of your brain is going to tell Gen X women to do exactly that again. Now, don't get me wrong. Gen X women have learned a lot. You are sophisticated. You intellectually know muscle matters now, and that's awesome. But with everything in me, I promise you, your planner still doesn't properly recognize the critical importance of building muscle, of getting fat and protein in your daily nutrition as a permanent lifestyle. And I promise your planner brain will make you think you're eating too much fat and not getting enough high intensity cardio. And Gen X ladies, as lovingly as I can say this to you, your planner brain was programmed with 1990s advice that was completely wrong then and actually dangerous now. It's not your fault, but every natural instinct that you have about building muscle and burning fat needs to be questioned and reprogrammed. Okay, now let's turn to the guys because just wow. What were Gen X men taught is the way to achieve that ideal body? Every fitness magazine on the planet proclaimed huge lifting workouts that focused on a single body part that you should go to the gym for 1 to 2 hours and annihilate it to oblivion before hitting it again the following week. And don't forget that the only way to grow muscle is to have a high carb, high protein post workout shake, and that both you and your workout suck without a pre workout drink. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now with 100% certainty, if you do that nonsense, you will either end up injured or you will experience soreness so debilitating that you'll hate the gym. Heck, you won't even be able to go to the gym because of the pain and the damage. You'll be in so much pain or on the injury reserve list, which means the third and final part of your brain will take over, force you to quit, and you'll simply never build the muscle and drop the fat that's needed to experience life altering levels of adventure. And guys, just like the women, we think we know more now. We think we'll work out intelligently in the gym, but I promise you, your planner brain is going to think it needs to work too hard for too long, for too many exercises, for too many sets. And at our age, we'll either experience injury or burnout really freaking quickly. All right. We've covered the adventurer and planner brains that are robbing Gen X of their 15 to 30 remaining capable years, but we have one more brain to talk about. And this is the one that's already been sabotaging you for decades. I know that's true because if it hadn't, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now, needing to transform our bodies so that we can enjoy vibrant longevity and an exciting life of adventure, that one we've dreamed of. Okay, third part of our brain, I call the survivor brain. And without going into a ton of detail, I'll make this really simple. Pretty much at all times, the survivor brain looks over at the adventurer brain and the planner brain, working together, talking. They're creating this new life of awesome. And the survivor brain shakes its head and says, "You two are absolute idiots." And by around week 3, into taking actions towards your goals and your dreams, it shuts you down. We quit. You quit. I quit. And as you're aware, this keeps happening over and over again every time we try to change. Sound familiar? It should, because it happens to all 8 billion of us on the planet. If you're sitting here thinking, this is me, this is exactly what's been happening, then you need to understand something. The 3-week quit cycle, it's never going to go away on its own. Your adventurer brain will keep lying to you. Your planner brain will keep giving you 1990s advice. And your survivor brain, not only does it win, but it's getting stronger every year you wait. So, what do you do about all of that? Well, I'll teach you exactly what I teach my clients. I do that during my free live workshop, which is how to align these 3 brains so they work with you instead of against you. Because here's the deal. Once the adventurer, planner, and survivor brains are aligned, you will finally create the level of sustained motivation, consistency, and energy that are required to truly transform your body and enjoy a life of adventure. It's the same process I used to get people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa or to the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu, including some who thought it would be impossible just 6 months earlier. In my live workshop, I walk you through exactly what Gen X needs to do differently in order to safely and effectively create a transformed body that's ready for the adventure travel and life experiences you've been working so hard for so long to finally enjoy. The workshop is free, but your capable years for mind-blowing adventure, those are both running out faster than you realized and costing you more than you can possibly imagine. So head to the link in the description below, register before my next live workshop starts, and I will see you there so that together we can transform for adventure.